Hello. Okay, I'm testing the voice. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Alice Makochieng from Nelson Mandela University. I'll be presenting this topic and on the backdrop of what has been discussed on ethics and corruption and Ubuntu. I'm exploring a topic on what is the relationship between business and society, and especially the role of local governments in fostering or creating an enabling environment that uh, encourages investment inflows, and particularly when you consider global firms and what they look out for. And on the backdrop of ethics, there's been a lot of ethical derelictions in many municipalities to the extent that big business, and especially global business, are reaching levels where they feel frustrated. So, and this topic today is also poignant for me because, world over, because yesterday was the United Nations World Cities Day. And World Cities Day celebrates, it's a day designated 31st of October every year, yesterday, but the UN celebrates cities as magnets of investment. And actually the theme for this year was cities as centers that foster transformative investment to create sustainable cities. And I really do believe that sustainable cities are cities that are ethically managed. So let me delve into the presentation. Yeah. Okay, so the short and sweet to the point of presentation. I don't have all the answers, but I'm presenting observations and anecdotal evidence of what's going on. Okay, so the relationship between business and society is a close one, and it is one that generates a lot of debates because of the economic, social, environmental, and human challenges that exist between these two key entities. And if you look at this relationship, it's a very complex relationship that is characterized by concepts such as pluralism, special interests in society, business criticism, ethics and ethical conduct, corporate behavior, and most importantly, corporate social response to stakeholders. I know the two speakers who've been here, Professor Rousseau and the prof that was here, has spoken a lot on the stakeholder approach, the stakeholder model, the stakeholder theory, and I will touch on it a little bit also. So normally when we talk about business and society relationship, we normally, most of the time, focus on the responsibility of business, corporate power, what business needs to do. For a change, today, I'm going to talk about something different, what local governments need to do, or what local governments ought to do. And we've, in a very simple illustration, this looks like a web of relationship that exists in business and society, with all the stakeholders intertwined together, from shareholders, and now Professor Dean spoke a lot on shareholder responsibility and the market approach. But very seldom do we really dwell on the role of government in creating that ideal society, especially for business. We take it for granted that government is big, it's infallible, it will do its role. Increasingly, we're saying that we cannot take it for granted that government will do its role and that it will create the environment that is required for business to do its part, or rather for business to be able to conduct business properly and be able to make a profit. I was just reading an article where one of the leading CEOs of the retail sector, the umbrella body of the consumer group, and he said it has become difficult that we pay taxes and we still have to face challenges of infrastructure, just basic things that are not delivered. And it has reached a point where it has increased the cost of business. And so for this lecture, the nexus between ethics and accountability, corruption, particularly at local government authorities, which are mandated to provide and maintain public utilities and services and infrastructure in a true pluralistic society, is concerning or has become quite concerning. So typically, failure of local governments in provision of services is affecting business from a point of our major cities or economic centers becoming attractive for new investments, and to also the point of undesirably increasing the cost of doing business in the country. And I know for a fact, South Africa compared to Sub-Saharan Africa, South Africa is still fairly, you can say, an industrialized country. There's so many positives going on, but we also have seen, and I'm going to go into those specifics, that there's a lot that is undesirable that is going on in the local authorities that is making it not ideal to do business. Yeah. So from a stakeholder point of view, this symbiotic relationship between business and society is a crucial one. Can business rest and say that we know our mandate and we know the mandate of government and that the government will do its job? And I think increasingly, if you listen to CEOs, they're telling you, no, we don't and we can't. Because for some reason, government has derelicated its duty. And so this presentation posits that the issues of ethics, accountability, and corruption of local authorities as a key stakeholder that is mandated to provide public services in South Africa has deteriorated and the concerns have increased. For example, the Eastern Cape, which is deemed in terms of industrial capability as the Detroit of South Africa, you can call it that. And considering the OEMs that are here, VW is just like 30 kilometers or 20 kilometers away, employed directly 4,000 people on the ground, boots on the ground in this municipality, 4,000 people. And you can see also the resultant industries that are involved with these OEMs. But when the CEO of a large corporation says that increasingly we are investing more and more in municipal utilities, from water to energy to infrastructure by ourselves, and we can no longer rely on the municipality, then it becomes a concerning issue. And I remember listening to a talk by one of the CEOs, and she was saying that when you get a call from head office and you're asked production targets were not in time or production targets were not met, and then you counter it and say, but we didn't get enough electricity, or we need more provision from head office to give us more funds so that we can set up more water or buy water. And the head office is like, what is that? Because the other investment destinations you're competing with, China, Mexico, India, Brazil, are not countering those questions. So the CEO in these areas find that they have to go into extra cost or extra existential issues of business that necessarily diverts you from concentrating on meeting your production targets. And energy sustainability is a major issue. And when you reach this level, energy especially and water, when you reach this level, the CEO says, okay, we have a loyalty to invest here. But then we also increasingly reach a point where we say it's not a one country investment, but now we start to look at the Pan-African investment because we have to diversify our risks because of the risks that we're seeing on the ground. Okay. So with this wave of responsibility and with this complexity of business and society and the local government not doing their job or not providing the required services and businesses increasingly intervening, providing basic municipality services, to what extent can businesses take up these additional costs? And is this ethical for business to do this? I know increasingly we always say from an ethics and corporate social responsibility, the business of business is business. Now, no Milton Friedman would agree that it's none of our business. Wake up government and do your role. But if you're a CEO and you know that if you don't have water, your pension won't work, you have to dig in and get additional funds and provide the water. So to what extent can business intervene in areas which are mandated and are the responsibility of government? Yeah. And I'm sure we've seen these headlines, and this is not just in the Eastern Cape. We've seen headlines like this. It's not unusual, where local authorities have increasingly become incapable of providing water, especially, and water is a big issue because geographically, even without ethical failures, South Africa geographically, we are located naturally in a place that is water scarce. We're very lucky over the last 8 months or so, we've actually had good rains, but we all know how we've gone through ground zero. So if you couple now the natural calamities or the natural geographical disadvantage that we have, and then you superimpose that the ethical failure that we are having at municipalities, and you can actually see the number of qualified audits or just so many issues that the Auditor General has raised. Why are we failing? Do we not have enough people? Is it incapacity, incapability, negligence? How can we make our municipalities work? Because they can work. And I remember many years ago where the private sector saw that we are not going to watch these things go this way, and we're going to second skilled personnel from the private sector to go work hand in hand with government. I don't know how many of you remember, but you remember the former CEO of SAB, Mr. Makochieng? I think he became the CEO of South African Police, or he was the co-CEO of the police. I mean, it was like drastic, where the private sector comes in to do the work of government. And maybe we're going to reach, I'm going to talk about interventions in the next steps. But we've seen our roads, we've seen Department of Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs in their way back in 2009, raising key issues that the problems of politics and corruption at local government level is threatening not only the life of business, but also the livelihoods of people who live there. But today I'm not focusing on private citizens, I'm focusing on global investments and businesses because of the business society debate. This is also close to my heart because when I did my master's research, I was attached at Mercedes-Benz. At that time it was called Daimler Chrysler in East London. And then subsequent to that, after that, I worked in the automotive industry. And so I know how intricate this relationship between the industrial base of this province and the government is very close. Okay. So the discussion then is, from a stakeholder approach, how can business contend with this in its own operating environment? And how can local authorities create an enabling environment that fosters business growth? Having seen that evidently that it is clear that local authorities, from corruption and incapacity and incapability, and not from a stakeholder approach where their expectations, their roles to play, business has expectations, these expectations are not being met. That is the problem. What is the solution then? Okay, and my discussion then continues that these incapacity and failures in the operating environment range from man-made to range from natural disasters to man-made. And I think the discussion that we have today on ethical issues, largely these failures are man-made. And if you look at, okay, I'll come back to the solution, possible potential solution. So why does this matter? Especially for global funds that look at these problems as a potential and a high place for investment. And the theory that I'm using here is Michael Porter's national diamond theory. It's a theory that looks at the national competitiveness of a place, of a geographical place that global firms normally consider when they're looking at a place to put additional investment or to invest in. And for a long time, the conditions that are in this Michael Porter diamond are straightforward, and always when these conditions used to be seen as a given. However, increasingly, the role of government in this diamond is being brought to the fore. But if you look at the Michael Porter diamond model of national attractiveness by global firms or geographical places to invest in, we can say, if you look at farm strategy, that will be the companies, the global farms strategy and their positioning. This is normally under the control of the company. They know what to do or what they need to do. When it comes to demand conditions, this is the country's demand, the size of the market, the industrialization base, and the capability to absorb or provide a market for that national, for that global firm. When it comes to related industries, companies need a web of other competing industries, and if it is the automotive, like they need a strong supplier base. And that is there, most OEMs also normally attract tier one suppliers. So that is there, that's not a question. And factor conditions, these are the natural conditions that are natural resources, skills, technology, innovation that a country has that makes it an attractive place for investment. However, these gray areas are the most, I'm leaving this chance to chance because that's not a big issue, but the gray area here is the government. And increasingly, okay, as I was just discussing, factor conditions, if you look, for example, for South Africa, we have a strong basic, Michael Porter calls them basic and advanced factor conditions. These are natural resources, minerals, technology, advanced skills. These are present for most global firms, or rather they find it inside the greenhouse terms. And demand conditions, the size of the whole market is, South Africa is quite strong. In fact, if you look at South Africa, it's in sub-Saharan Africa, South Africa attracts 50% of total FDI flows in sub-Saharan Africa. However, you can't compare yourself to small economies and say you're number one. If you put South Africa with its peers in the BRICS, we're really quite small. Okay, and given our size, we could do much better. And this is where the problem that we have. South Africa is not scaling up high enough to attract the right size of FDI that it needs to attract within the BRIC countries. Okay, and so conclusion of my presentation is, why does this matter? Okay. Related and supporting industries. I did just explain that in that diagram that we have a strong supplier base and a farm strategy, and that in conclusion, the big one is here. The big lacuna is the government. While South Africa is still an attractive investment destination, the government's incapacity, especially at the local government level, is dragging investment. So, what is the way forward? You can put your province here, or you can put your region. This is from Gauteng to Eastern Cape. The only province that has seen marked increase in investment is the Western Cape. And some investment, good investment inflows in Limpopo as well. That is because of mining. So, in conclusion, what is the way forward to make municipalities more ethically strong and viable and do their mandates as an important stakeholder in society? Number one, we need more advocacy so that we can create to improve these economic conditions, and this advocacy can come from other key stakeholders. We need more government to work closely with business so that they can improve the business conditions, especially at local level. But the one that I really like and that I've seen in action, especially in the Eastern Cape, is to create a third way or third-party intermediaries. We've seen strong business chambers can actually make critical interventions. We saw what the PE Chamber of Commerce, what it has done, especially in energy sustainability in Nelson Mandela Bay. So more of that is required, especially because they're very solutions driven. But it is really not the role of the chamber to actually intervene in areas that need to be driven by government. And more accountability at a leadership level. And politically, biggest problem why municipalities are not delivering is shaky political coalitions that are governing those municipalities. And there is another debate. How do we change our coalitions so that we don't have these coalitions that are just standing on stilts? You know, most of the small wind blows and boom, we don't have a governing coalition anymore. And this has happened in Pretoria, Johannesburg, Durban, Port Elizabeth. And we need greater responsibility between governments and business, and to make societal issues strategic. And last but not least, one CEOs made a comment that we need to work together. Government is not delivering, and this is not a policy issue. We think as a business we need to do something. We need to, like, boots on the ground. As what Simon Zadek says, Simon Zadek is a key writer in business ethics and sustainability, and he says that we need to move from strategic to innovative. And this is a time where business cannot look inside out, business needs to look outside in. Because the things that are happening outside are going to eat into their profits. And businesses have to do, especially if you're operating a business in a place that is challenged by things that are happening outside, like when the local authorities are not doing their mandates, then business has to think outside and work inwards. And to end, as my peer or colleague that was here before me just said, maybe if we work like this, business has a very strong outside-in perspective, maybe we can be able to reach some form of ethical excellence and strengthen the municipalities. Okay, that's it.
Yes, I would like to get to know who came up with this word local authority. Why local? Local authority. Because in Kenya we have evolved government. And I'm thinking local. Because we were having a conversation previously. This These names. What's the insight around?
You have an answer? I think it's
So essentially, the language is around local government and the municipality and also historical identity. We work in local government, the municipality is local government. In the language of the country, it's local government and national government. And local. We call it local. We don't have evaluation.
And that word local really sounds, again, you're putting me to local, expertise, local things. Yeah, that was, but I would like us to appreciate Alice. I appreciate the Nelson Mandela because she is one of us, right? Also, you guys. Thank you for doing a great job. Would like to also open this forum for 1 or 2, 3 minutes if you have any remarks for Alice. Yes, Fatma. Can I come on? Thanks, Alice. Now, I just want to commend you on your work and also just to share with you that we're working on a project called the Local Government Ethical Leadership Initiative. And we're currently developing or have finalized a code for ethical leadership for local government. And it's part of a consultative process that we have engaged in over the past 3 years, and we're working closely in partnership with government. So it might be useful for you, and I'm very happy to share the code with you to enrich your research processes, because essentially what we are talking about is the spirit of ethical leadership and needed at local government level, and then how does one go about making that happen? So the code is really boils down to leaders making a moral choice to do the right thing, and if you make that moral choice, it leads to positive consequences. So we can chat in the break, and I'm very happy to share that with you to help you with your research.
sure. Thank you, Fatma.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. My question has to do with this. In your research, what would you say? I mean, I've heard it said that governments, whether local, provincial, or national, don't perform as they would, either because of a question of character, competence, or capacity. So, character would be in the area of ethics, and competence would be maybe the right people, not the ones running the affairs, and capability. So related to that, what would you say your people is more responsible for the lack of performance in local governments? Is it ethics? Is it lack of competence? Lack of capability?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. I think it's not lack of competence. I think what the prof was here before me said, the dark mode, the dark side of ethics, of human behavior. Because people are competent, they know the right thing that they need to do, but the human greed is too strong. That's my analysis and take of it. Because if you look at the cases that have been brought by SIU, special investigation units, these are people who are competent. So it is a greed. The human dark side of ethics is, I think I'm gonna justify it and say that human beings are fallible. We also saw the presentation before me ended that there's a positive side. So I think our moral character need to change, and maybe also the consequences. If you look at a country like Singapore, the consequences are dire. So a small moral failure will result into a very strong consequence, and therefore that acts as a deterrent. I don't think we have enough deterrent. from a business perspective, business cases in courts take so long to adjudicate, and as a result, perpetrators don't see any consequences of their actions. So, yeah, it's human behavior. Thank you.
Mr. Ritter?
Thank you. So my question for you is, in terms of saying that business need to think outwards to inwards, in terms of solving the outwards problems, which we have an authority or an entity that should sort them. For me, it seems a lot like treating symptomatology rather than addressing the problem. Because I think that even, and we see in some African countries now that where companies don't think outwards to resolve the problems, they get more regulation, which forces them to resolve problems that should not be resolved by them. Which is I think it's not the right way to address the, I don't want to use competencies, but end up being like that, of governments and local governments, whatever we call it. So my question to you is, wouldn't we, by shifting in a sense and saying to companies that where I agree they have a contribution to the social and economic environment where they act in, meaning that through their production and profits and everything that Professor John said is your output, needs to look at that, but it's your output that needs to look at that. It's not you starting by solving a problem that's not yours, but is when you take from it, you give it back. Not, I think you understand what I'm saying. So it's the symptom that I think this proposal treats and not the problem. So how do you see that comment in a sense?
You're very right, and government has got no business doing what, business has got no business doing what government needs to do, wants to do. But also you can go back to the book, I think there's a book called The Power of the Corporation, where if you look at Google, Amazon, and I think Facebook, or you put Apple there, even just Apple alone, one company's earnings are more than a sizable country's GDP. So corporate power is so strong. And so where government is failing, I think corporations are quasi-government. They can go over and far and beyond and do what they need to do. It's unfair, they don't need to do it. But if they don't do it, we have governments that have no capacity to do what they need to do. And it's a catch-22. Like in this case, if this global automotive firm didn't invest extra in water, in infrastructure, they have delays on the port, which are actually even beyond what they can change. And they have legacy investments here, they can't just pack up and leave. So corporations are doing way beyond extra. And I think government cannot regulate itself. You think government can regulate itself? It should, but it can't. So I think government is getting away with murder, and corporations are finding that if they don't do something, it's their business that's going to suffer. So it's a moral dilemma, it's an ethical dilemma, it's a corruption dilemma, it's a corporate society dilemma, and I think more to debate about it. I'm interested in what Professor Dean Rousseau says about it, because he's an authority on these ethical dilemmas.
That is what happens when you engage a teacher on a subject that she loves. Let's appreciate Alice. Well done, Alice. I would like to request Brian to appreciate your work. Please, let's appreciate her. Let's take it. She was good to have. And a gift from Absa. Kumeli, are you here? Thank you. Those gifts are awesome. Let's appreciate Absa. Thank you so much.